We are diving deep into Gypsy Rose Blanchard's Fox News interview to uncover the layers of deception hidden behind her words. Gypsy's story has captivated the public for years, but beneath her composed exterior and carefully curated narrative lies a much darker truth. This isn't just about her past, it's about how she continues to manipulate the media and the public to gain sympathy, attention, and financial benefit.
Front and center, Fox 5 LA. You allowed Gypsy Rose Blanchard on your platform to lie today. Are you guys aware that Gypsy Rose Blanchard used a man with autism, a low IQ, mental health issues, that was collecting a disability check and manipulated him for 3 years and had him believing that she really was being abused, which she wasn't?
We are going to dissect what she said in her recent interview, and with the help of past statements, we'll expose the inconsistencies, the lies, the manipulative tactics she used to paint herself as the victim. But let's be real, this is far from a victim's story. It's a story of manipulation, deceit, and a continued refusal to take responsibility. Let's get into it. Let's start with the controversy surrounding Gypsy's pregnancy. During the Fox interview, she casually mentions that she's pregnant, answering questions like, it's just another chapter in her life.
You're pregnant, by the way, so congratulations on your pregnancy.
Thank you.
You're having a little girl, you said?
I'm having a girl, yes.
Do you have a name yet?
We haven't picked out a name yet, but we have a lot of options.
It's interesting, right, when you are in the process of becoming a parent, how you will find how that will change you as a person. And going through the experience you've gone through, how do you think you're prepared to step into that role?
Well, thankfully, I have a wonderful support system. I have a wonderful family and friends who support me through this journey. So I have lots of feedback from them and just a lot of support from them. So that helps me a lot.
But here's where the problem starts. Gypsy had a golden opportunity to address the rumors that have been swirling around her pregnancy, including the inconsistencies in her belly size and the accusations that she's been faking baby kicks. Yet, she completely avoided them. Now, why would she avoid such an important topic? People have been questioning her for months about this pregnancy. Photos and videos have surfaced where Gypsy's belly appears to fluctuate in size. One day it's big, the next day it's noticeably smaller. These aren't minor details that can just be ignored. People aren't pulling these suspicions out of thin air. They believe something is off here.
Your bellies don't shrink. I mean, babies move, they can go back and forth, it drops, stuff like that. But you're not going to be carrying out front and then all of a sudden you're carrying like back in your ribs. So where's your belly? Like, I totally believe that you are or were pregnant. If something did happen, that's fine, come out and tell people. But you're taking pictures with fans and there's no belly. You also did your fall fashion and there's no belly. But when you do bump dates, your stomach is huge. So obviously we know you're pushing it out, but where's the belly now?
Gypsy could have used this interview to shut down these rumors once and for all, but she didn't. Instead, she left everyone wondering, why isn't she clearing the air? This silence raises a lot of red flags. If you were in Gypsy's shoes, wouldn't you want to defend yourself? To tell people, look, here's the truth. Here's what's really going on. But instead, Gypsy lets the rumors build, adding fuel to the fire. This is classic behavior for her, dodging the truth when it is convenient, just like she's done in the past. Remember, this isn't the first time Gypsy has avoided facing the truth head-on. She spent years lying about her health, perpetuating the false narrative her mother constructed. Back then, it was about gaining sympathy and attention by pretending to be sick. Now, it seems she's playing a similar game with her pregnancy, except this time, she's the one controlling the narrative. The lies may be different, but the pattern is the same: avoid, deflect, and manipulate. When we look at Gypsy's history, it's not hard to see why people are skeptical about her pregnancy. She spent most of her life deceiving those around her. It's hard to suddenly believe that she's being honest now, especially when the inconsistencies are in her story. If she really wanted to, she could have addressed this issue and cleared her name. But she chose not to. And that's where the suspicion comes in. Why wouldn't she want to set the record straight? And here's the bigger picture. Gypsy is using her pregnancy for attention. By staying silent on the inconsistencies, she's allowing people to keep talking about her. She's feeding the public's curiosity, drawing more attention to herself, which keeps her relevant. In the past, Gypsy's entire identity was built around the lies she told about her health. Now, it seems she's using her pregnancy in the same way, to keep people hooked on her story, even if it means manipulating the truth once again. Next up is Gypsy's claim about her painkiller addiction and how it supposedly affected her state of mind during her mother's murder. In the Fox interview, Gypsy says that she was addicted to painkillers at the time of the murder.
About something that you hadn't mentioned until recently, how you were actually addicted to painkillers, right?
Correct.
That was something that many people didn't know. I was wondering, at the time that the murder of your mother happened, were you under the influence of the painkillers? Were you high? Did that influence what occurred that night?
I was, during that week, abusing painkillers. However, that was not something that affected my mental state at that time.
Interesting.
But here's where it gets tricky. She claims that this addiction didn't affect her mental state. Let that sink in for a moment. Gypsy wants us to believe that she was numbing herself emotionally with painkillers, but at the same time, these drugs had no impact on her decision making. Now, that's a huge contradiction. In the ABC News interview, Gypsy admitted that she was high during the murder. She even said she used the painkillers to stay numb, to avoid feeling anything.
Did your addiction have any connection to this crime?
I think a part of it did. I would get high to stay numb, to not feel emotion.
So when you made this decision to take part in the killing of your mom, were you high?
Yes, I was. I was actually arrested with the pain medication in my bag.
And do you blame that for your decision?
No. I don't blame drugs. I don't blame anything. I don't make excuses. There's no excuse for committing murder.
But now, in the Fox interview, she's trying to downplay the role these drugs played in her mental state. You can't have it both ways, Gypsy. If you were using painkillers to block out emotions, they absolutely would have impacted your thinking. Trying to downplay this now is nothing more than another manipulation tactic. She's trying to rewrite the narrative to make herself look like she was fully aware and in control during the murder, which clearly contradicts her previous statements. But let's get one thing straight. Gypsy wasn't just an innocent bystander caught in the whirlwind of bad decisions. She actively planned her mother's murder with Nicholas Godejohn. They texted about it, they plotted it together, and they executed the plan. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision made under the influence of painkillers. It was cold, calculated, and deliberate. And let's not forget Gypsy's claim that she was using painkillers to stay numb to avoid feeling emotions. If that's true, then why does it seem like she was fully aware of what she was doing in every step of the murder plot? She knew exactly what she wanted to happen, and she made sure it played out according to the plan. Gypsy's attempt to paint herself as emotionally detached and unaware just doesn't hold up when we look at the evidence. She was in control. She made her decisions. The idea that Gypsy was somehow too high or too numb to realize what she was doing just doesn't add up. In fact, it seems more like she's trying to make herself look like less of a villain by downplaying her involvement. But the truth is, Gypsy knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't some dragged out, emotionally detached person who accidentally ended up involved in a murder. She was the mastermind behind it. And the drugs, they were just another convenient excuse. Now, let's talk about Gypsy's claims of advocacy. In her Fox interview, she positions herself as an advocate for prison reform and abuse victims, saying she wants to use her platform to drive awareness and change.
You say you want to be an influence for change. Can you talk about that? What do you mean by that? And did that experience in prison highlight the fact that you want to be an influence for change?
Absolutely. I feel like there is a lot of positive change that could happen if given the ability. And so I think that there is a lot of things in our justice system that needs to be addressed. So I am an advocate for prison reform, but also for abuse victims. I feel like I was in a situation where I didn't know that there were resources to help children and, victims of abuse in my situation. And so I think that needs to be advocated more, those resources, and more knowledge and education about that.
On the surface, it sounds admirable. But let's ask an important question. Why now? Why is Gypsy only stepping into this role right as she's about to release her book, My Time to Stand? When Gypsy first got out of prison, there was no mention of advocacy. She didn't step up to fight for victims or talk about prison reform. In fact, when people reached out to her, she distanced herself from those roles.
Okay, so I had first thought about making this video last night, but I decided that I needed to sit on it for a minute. The only thing I wanted for you, Gypsy, was nothing negative, nothing bad. It was just for you to use your platform for good. She is not who you think she is, and yet people worship her.
Even going so far as criticize content creators like Nina for supposedly misrepresenting her. Yet now, just as her memoir is set to hit the shelves, she suddenly embraces the mantle of an advocate. The timing is suspicious, and it raises the question of whether this advocacy is driven by genuine concern or by a desire to sell more books. If Gypsy truly cared about these causes, why didn't we see this side of her sooner? Why wait until she has a product to promote? Real advocates don't wait for the perfect moment to start their work. They don't wait for a book deal or the opportunity to benefit financially from their story. They take action because they care deeply about making a difference. And it's clear that Gypsy's advocacy seems to be more about managing her image and promoting her book than creating meaningful change. It's hard not to see this as a carefully orchestrated marketing tactic. By framing herself as someone who's now working to make the world a better place, Gypsy is strategically building sympathy and support at a crucial time, just as she's preparing to release her memoir. The narrative she's selling is designed to make people feel sorry for her, to believe that she's transformed into someone who wants to help others. And when people feel sorry for you, they are more likely to buy into your story, and in this case, buy her book. This isn't real advocacy, it's a public relations move. It's about selling a product, not fighting for change. If Gypsy were genuinely committed to these causes, wouldn't she have started advocating right after her release? The fact that she waited until there was a book to sell makes it clear that this newfound advocacy is less about helping victims and more about keeping herself relevant and profitable. Real advocacy involves action, not just words. Yet, Gypsy's so-called advocacy feels hollow. There's no evidence that she's been actively working to support victims or push for prison reform outside of her public statements. If she were serious about these causes, there would be a track record or meaningful work, but there isn't. Instead, we see her stepping into this role conveniently just in time for her book release. This isn't the first time Gypsy has used her story to manipulate the public perception. She did it during the murder trial, and now she's doing it again with her so-called advocacy. The goal remains the same: to generate sympathy, control the narrative, and profit off the public attention. Let's not be fooled. Gypsy's new role as an advocate is nothing more than a strategic rebranding. It's designed to make her look like she's learned and grown, all while boosting her book sales. If this were truly about creating change, Gypsy would have started advocating long before there was a book to promote. But that didn't happen, because this isn't about advocacy, it's about business. One of the most frustrating aspects of Gypsy's interview is how she continues to talk about Nicholas Godejohn. She says things like, "I did my time, he's doing his time for his part," as if that's the end of the conversation. But there's a huge problem with this narrative.
Former boyfriend, Nick Godejohn, is serving a life sentence. Is it fair that he is incarcerated for life for killing your mom and you're out?
Well, I'm sure that we both have a lot of regrets. All I can really say is that I did my time. He's doing his time for his part. And I wish him well on his journey.
Gypsy keeps pushing the blame onto Nicholas, making it seem like he's the one who bears the brunt of responsibility for what happened. But let's be real. Nicholas didn't just wake up one day and decide to kill Didi Blanchard. He did it because Gypsy manipulated him into it. Gypsy was the mastermind behind the entire plan. She convinced Nicholas to do her bidding, and she carefully orchestrated every step of the murder. The text messages between them paint a clear picture. Gypsy wasn't just along for the ride. She was the one calling the shots. She planned it, she manipulated Nicholas, and she followed through on her plan with cold precision. Yet in her interview, she acts like her hands are clean. She says she did her time, as if that erases the fact that she was driving the force behind her mother's murder. But Nicholas? He's serving life without parole. Does that seem fair? Nicholas did the killing, yes, but he wouldn't have done it without Gypsy's manipulation. And now, Gypsy gets to walk free as he rots in prison for the rest of his life. This isn't about unfair sentencing. It's about how Gypsy continues to manipulate the narrative to make herself look like the victim. She wants us to believe that she was trapped, that she had no choice but to involve Nicholas in the murder. But the truth is, Gypsy was the one in control the whole time. She used Nicholas as a pawn to carry out her plan, and now she's using him again to deflect blame from herself. Let's move on to another crucial aspect of Gypsy's story, her claims about the doctors. In the Fox interview, she paints herself as a victim, saying that her mother manipulated the doctors into believing she was sick and that she had no control over the situation.
It's fascinating to me that for so many years, you went along with this fabricated story, right? And I guess I have a hard time understanding how when you would go visit doctors, because you did extensively, how those doctors weren't unable to see the truth, that you actually could walk, that you didn't need a feeding tube, that you didn't need these drugs you were given. I mean, it's just baffling to me. How was someone out there not saying, wait a minute, she doesn't need any of this stuff. This is all a lie.
I know. The level of deception that my mother had over these doctors was so extensive and so severe that these doctors would ignore test results coming back normal and things like this, things that should have been red flags. And unfortunately, I was one of the individuals of many that fall through the cracks.
So do you find those doctors in any way responsible for carrying on and allowing your mother then in a way to carry on this lie?
You know, I'd kind of chalk that up to human error. I think we all want to believe the good in people. So, you know, I struggle with that. It is something that, yes, I do feel like they should be held accountable in ways. And other ways, I also feel like it was misjudgment on their part.
But here's the thing, Gypsy was actively participating in this deception. In the first transcript, it was pointed out that Gypsy wasn't just a passive victim in this whole ordeal. She was telling doctors that she couldn't walk, playing into her mother's lies. Gypsy wasn't some helpless child being forced into treatments. She was part of the scam. This is important because it shows that Gypsy wasn't powerless. She had the abilities to speak up. She had the ability to tell the truth, but she didn't. She kept going along with the lies, even when she knew it wasn't true.
I had all these illnesses, except that I knew I could walk, and I knew that I could eat. It wasn't until I saw my attorney for the first time, and he tells me that there's been no medical records that says I have cancer, and it shocked me. I don't have cancer? It confused me so much. What other illnesses don't I have? He tells me, for the most part, he thinks I'm perfectly healthy, and that a lot of this is made up. I was happy to know that I'm perfectly healthy, but at the same time, it hurt because it's like my whole world had been tossed up, and I realized that my mother wasn't who I thought she was.
And now, she wants us to believe that she had no choice, that her mother was controlling everything, but the truth is, Gypsy was complicit. She could have stopped the deception at any time. She could have spoken up to the doctors and told them the truth, but she didn't. Instead, she played along, manipulating those around her just as much as her mother did. Now, she's trying to rewrite history to make it seem like she was just a victim, but the evidence shows otherwise. So what do we have here? We have a woman who continues to rewrite her past, manipulate the public, and dodge responsibility for her actions. Gypsy Rose Blanchard has spent years crafting a narrative that paints her as a victim, a survivor of abuse who had no other choice but to kill her mother. But the truth? It's much darker than that. Gypsy has shown time and time again that she's capable of manipulation, of lying, and of shifting the blame onto others. Whether it's dodging questions about her pregnancy, downplaying her role in the murder, or pretending to be an advocate for prison reform, it's clear that Gypsy is still playing a game. And the media, they are letting her get away with it. It's time to stop buying into the narrative that Gypsy wants us to believe. The truth is out there, and it's time we start paying attention to it. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about Gypsy's latest interview and the lies she's continuing to tell. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. See you next time.